Also that we want to make sure that the small business investment program, that you can participate in that program. And also that the number of investment managers, we are looking for more minority-owned investment managers. We have none in the state of Delaware, 0. I was actually talking to Treasurer Napier a few weeks ago talking about, does she know any, just to make sure that we get people access to capital. Now that being said, we're not just going to throw money to a minority-owned business just for the sake of doing it. And I think Steve brought up an excellent point when he said that your company had to come in and be qualified. And that's what it's about. Bring your A game when you talk to us, because I will always make sure that door is open for you, but you have to make sure that you get the business. And also the number of MBEs in the state bond issuing process. That number again is 0. I am not comfortable with 0. It bothers me. We are going to open that door up, and we're making sure that our lenders, even though we may not have a minority-owned vendor doing it, that I expect that team to be diverse. Again, that's another way, and I expect them to also work with minority-owned firms if they can do it, to make sure that we're issuing money and we're issuing debt in a diverse manner. And finally, as I said before, that I don't mind increasing the MBA participation in subcontractors, but that's not what I'm about. You know, subcontractors is one thing. If that's one way we can get you in, that's always the last resort in my mind. Some concluding thoughts here. Always, when you come meet with me, how are you going to impact Delaware? Do your homework, read the plan. You know, have a little copy. One of the investment bankers said, Treasurer Flowers, we read your plan. So it just kind of put me in a good mood when they said that. I said, oh, thank you, right? But that's very important. How are you going to impact Delaware? Do you have any employees in Delaware? Delaware, it's very easy. Many corporations are Delaware corporations. So if you don't have employees, say that you are a Delaware corporation. Is your MBE ready for business? Unfortunately, I had one MBE come into my office. We had the whole team ready, and unfortunately, he didn't have the pitch book, didn't have that together. That sends a bad signal, right? You know, my team, you know, some members came up, well, that was a waste of time. And I said, no, it wasn't. You know, you meet with some good businesses and bad business. Don't criticize just because that MBE wasn't ready. But I ask you all to do me a favor when you come meet with me, have it together. You know, I'm going to make sure that you get all the ears, everybody's in the room. Make sure you're together for that process. And then finally, are you meeting with the appropriate person, right? So a lot of people sometimes just call me, but they haven't realized that I don't have the pension office, right? So that sends a bad signal. If you haven't done your homework, then how can I give you business, right? I have to be responsible for managing $1.5 billion of money. I have to carry 4 cell phones. Trust me, I want somebody who is going to be on top of it so I can carry maybe 2 cell phones, right? That's my dream, right? That and going to Davos. Those are my only 2 dreams. And speaking at the Fed, but I fulfilled that today. So I'm all set. And finally, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And I think so many minority-owned businesses meet with me and ask, are there any grants or is there money for my small-owned business? Folks, you know, I'm an MBE. No one gave me a grant. You know, we have to go out there and do it the hard way. You know, you have to go out there, put your business plan, get a loan, put sweat equity, regular equity into it. You all understand that. So when you come into my office and you're ready to do business, but you need money, that sends a bad signal, right? That says like you haven't done your homework. So we all want to make sure that we are supporting MBEs. We're making sure you have access to capital, but understand that we take somebody very seriously when someone understands the financial market versus somebody says, I have a great business idea, I can help the Treasury, and by the way, can you give me $1 million to do it? Exactly. So let's just conclude there. So, but seriously, thank you for your time. We're very looking forward to it. I thank Steve and all the other panelists. And I look forward to your questions. And thank you and keep up the good work. God bless you.
I'd like to thank our 3 panelists again. These gentlemen are truly committed, and we appreciate the commitment. The question is, what can we do now that we know they're ready and they're committed? What can we do to be better prepared? Before we open up the floor to your questions, which will come just in a hot second, I'd like to ask each of the panelists to briefly provide insights, because you've all been small business owners, all owned your own business. What are some of the barriers that you see minority-owned businesses face in seeking to do business with your respective states? And David, your office, very briefly.
Thank you. I really appreciate the comments that you guys have made. It's very instructive to all of us. I want to just focus on one point. Oftentimes, and I see a lot of minority-owned and operated businesses come through. I will say this: I have seen very few that I was left with the impression that they weren't qualified and they weren't ready. If you're in the game and you survive this economic downturn, by and large, you have the opportunity, if you can get the capital and the relationships and the contracts, to grow your business to size and scale. One point I just want to make that I've seen firms not do so well at is take advantage of all the relationship opportunities that are available. You know, partnering with us is really a value add because, you know, while we're a small agency, we have relationships with all the federal agencies in government. We have relationships with large corporations. We are a touch point. And so it's important to build relationships that can lead to economic results and can lead to economic opportunities. And so one of the things I've seen that, in my experience, that firms do, they do very well at, you know, putting their head down and grinding away and cranking it out and getting that proposal right and getting the presentation right. But they don't do as well at really understanding the broad relationship nature of business and actually executing that through building relationships with organizations like ours and others. And that's an area where I think a lot of improvement would yield greater results.
Thank you, Treasurer Gross.
Just one quick, you know, and I think Chip hammered away at be ready.
Yeah.
When you come in, be ready. You got to bring your A game to the table. You don't get second, you know, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. Whatever cliche you want to use. The reality is you got to be ready. I don't know if Ron Walker is in the room yet. Is Ron here yet? Ron Walker. Ron? Hey, Ron. Ron is president of Next Street Financial. He and Tim Ferguson partnered up, and they run an extraordinarily interesting and imaginative firm that invests in small business enterprises. And their belief is, I think, if I can paraphrase, that a lot of people come in looking for money, but they don't have the technical skills to impress the bankers or the financial intermediary, whether it's a venture or mezzanine or whoever the source of capital is, that they're ready to use the money wisely. And so many businesses come in with a great idea. They're willing to work 80, 90, 100 hours a week, but they can't get beyond the technical skills that they don't have because nobody's given them those tools. So Ron, I think, hopefully will talk a little bit about his approach and Next Street's approach to marry access to capital with the technical skill set that you need to be able to actually execute, get the money, whether it's equity capital or financial capital the regular way, through banks or financial institutions, and then make a great go of it, grow your business, pay that loan off, earn a return on your investment, and create wealth. At the end of the day, you can't spend wealth that you don't create, and the creation of wealth and equity is one of the biggest challenges that we face. How do you create wealth, particularly in gateway cities, in the inner city? That's one of the reasons ICIC, Mike Porter's organization, Initiative for Competitive Inner City, was always structured around that principle that we create businesses in the cities of America, and hopefully that wealth stays in the city, and wealth begets wealth, begets wealth, begets wealth. And we have to create a precondition for that. But Ron's model, I think, is a particularly sound, savvy, thoughtful, and sustainable model. Technical skills are critical. You don't have the technical skills, all the great ideas in the world are not going to get you the capital.
Thank you. Relationships, technical skills.
I think Steve's point was exactly correct. And I was going to say, kind of following up on that technical skills point, was, you know, don't give anyone a reason to throw out your RFP response. In other words, if you know, there's an old expression, answer the question. If we have an RFP that has 20 questions, answer all 20, but answer the question. We see a lot of times some individuals just don't answer the question, and some of the MBEs get thrown out just that way because, again, it's not a technical compliance, right? You have to technically comply with the RFP. And it also, second, is that attend the pre-bid meetings. You know, just because you are in New York or Boston, Connecticut, and you're bidding on an RFP in Delaware, I want to see you. We you know, no one's going to hand you, I mean, probably not really without a lot of money. You're not going to hand $100, $200 million to someone you don't know. I mean, would you do it? I wouldn't give anyone $20 I don't know, not to mention $100 million. So, Boy, I'm cheap. But
Give you almost anything.
thanks, Steve. I appreciate it.
Almost.